Hi, and welcome back to Football Made Simple. We're here with an in-depth tactical analysis of Man City hosting Spurs in the Premier League. Having been knocked out of the Champions League a few days earlier, City needed the win to keep their title race on track, while Spurs needed it for their fight to secure a Champions League place. Two of the best tactical minds in the game put their wits against each other, and the match ended 1-0 to City in a tight encounter, thanks to a Phil Foden header that came about as a result of Pep's tactical choices. But what tactics do they use? Let's get into it. But just before we do, I'd appreciate it if you liked, subscribed, and shared the video. We're trying to grow a football community here where we can have discussions in the comments and send in video suggestions to @FootballMadeSim. So, by subscribing and sharing, you're helping to create that. If you want to see our previous video of City vs Spurs, press the I in the top right hand corner. Now, let's get into it. We'll start with the starting lineups. After taxing midweek, Pep lined up on paper in his usual 4-3-3. Walker and Laporte maintained their places, while Zinchenko and Stones came in for Company and Benjamin Mendy. Gundogan and De Bruyne played on, but in came academy graduate Phil Foden in place of City legend David Silva. Up front, the same front three played as in midweek, with Bernardo Silva, Aguero and Raheem Sterling leading the charge. Poch opted for what on paper was a 3-5-2. Gazzaniga came in for his third appearance in goal of the season. The back three was Alderweireld, Sanchez and Vertonghen, with Foyth and Ben Davies flanking them. The midfield trio was Ali, Dyer and Eriksen, with Son and Lucas Moura up top. Now, let's look at the in-game tactics, focusing on the four main areas of tactical periodization. These are defensive organization, defensive transition, offensive transition, and offensive organization. We'll start off with the home team's organization, beginning with their build-up play. When building up from the back, they use a method similar to Barcelona. Their shape could be described as a 2-3-2-3 in the build-up, with their centre-backs dropping deep and splitting, allowing Gundogan to drop in between them. As usual, their wingers push very high to force the Spurs' defensive line back. This is due to Edison's long-range passing ability, which can find the forwards, who of course can't be offside from a goal kick. The defense dropping deeper forces their midfield to drop back to close the gap opened up, and the forwards do the same, and this gives City defenders time on the build-up play. During this phase, Spurs defended in a clear 5-3-2 formation, with their wing-backs dropping into defense. They used a medium block, which allowed City to come through their own defensive third relatively easily. However, once City came through their defensive third, Spurs confronted them. They used a lateral press to force risky passes, similar to Barcelona against United. However, as City's defense is more comfortable on the ball, they held their position, meaning that unless Spurs were to press them as a team, City would be able to play around the pressure. Having moved into the midfield third, when attacking down the left, Zinchenko would tuck into a midfield position, while Walker dropped to make it a back three. This would achieve a few things. Walker dropping back was an attempt to detract any counter-attacks while giving an option for an aerial pass to counter the lateral press. At the same time, it would free the left channel to get the ball to Sterling, who they fancied in a 1-versus-1 against Foyth. Zinchenko joining the midfield formed a double pivot with Gundogan to help stop counter-attacks, but at the same time allowed City to push their number 8s high into the half space. Usually teams would push their midfield back as a response, but as Spurs had three centre-backs, they didn't push back too deep. From these half spaces, the midfielders can go wide to 2-versus-1 the fullback, or make runs to force the defence backwards. When they use their right-hand side, they would get the ball wide to Bernardo Silva, and instead of tucking into midfield and holding position, Walker would make a run, usually on the inside half-space position. This achieved a few things. It left Bernardo 1-versus-1 with Davies, whilst freeing the half space. This meant that Bernardo could cut in for a shot or a cross. It also left a City midfielder free on the edge of the box for a cross or shot. In fact, this is how the City goal came about. Walker took a man away by running on the inside half space. This freed Bernardo to cut in whilst De Bruyne remained free on support. Bernardo crossed to Aguero, and as we discussed, from their position high up the pitch, Foden could make a run into the box and score. But how about Spurs? What were their tactics? Well, their major threat in the game was using a quick attacking transition. They built up with a spread back three, and City in answer pressed high with a 4-3-3. The City line was high, leaving space in behind. Spurs used the pace of Son and Moura to get in behind. Although they didn't score, they got in many dangerous positions where they could have. In control position, Dele Alli would also often make runs to try get on the end of crosses. Their biggest threat was when City had the ball. As the City fullbacks would push high, it left space in behind them to attack. One of their forwards would pull into the channel to draw a centre-back, with the other occupying the space between the centre-backs. They would then look for quick passes from Eriksen and co to run onto. Overall, Guardiola's use of midfield runners resulted in a goal, and Spurs weren't clinical in the final third, scoring none from an XG of 1.09. City remain on course for the title, while Spurs could yet finish in the top 4. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video. Thanks for all the recent positive comments on screen now, and I especially like this comment by Arnab, a great detailed comment that can spark discussion without spreading any hate, which is what we encourage here. That's all for today, and remember, keep it simple.